Hello, everybody. Chris Lee and Alfred Ezman of Southeastern 14 here to tell you what's at stake in SEC baseball this weekend. It is the final weekend of the baseball season. We're going to tell you what's at stake for SEC tournament seeding, for NCAA tournament seeding, potentially, all those things that you want to know. First, a reminder, our content brought to you by BetOnline, your number one source for all your summer sports this season, MLB, golf, the NBA, NHL playoffs, all the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to get in on all the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, let's start in where you are, Knoxville. South
Mhm.
Carolina Gamecocks, coming off a drubbing by Georgia, face Tennessee, which comes off a series win just down the road in my hometown of Nashville. What's at stake here, South Carolina and Tennessee? Because I think both teams have got things to play for, although those things might be very different.
Yeah, it will be. When you look at Tennessee, they're currently neck and neck with Kentucky, trying to share that division title, which is important, obviously, for Hoover. You get a top seed, and actually, both Kentucky and Tennessee, since we're on it, they both actually have a quarterfinal bye already, but it's still key for them, to split the title depending on how many games they'll win. For South Carolina, I think if they want to continue to contend for hosting a regional, they need to not only win this series, but get a good seed in Hoover and then win going forward. So there's a lot at stake. It's at different levels of intensity, I would say, but there's a lot at stake for the Vols and Gamecocks this weekend.
Yeah, Tennessee holds the tiebreaker over Kentucky, by the way, if they are tied. The Kentucky's got a one-game lead. We'll get to the Cats and their series with Vanderbilt in just a minute. And South Carolina, a 3 seed in D1 baseball this week. Or sorry, not D1, Baseball America. D1's is not out as we do this on Wednesday morning. But the Gamecocks put themselves in a little bit of a precarious position. They were maybe slated to host until Georgia came in and
Mhm.
did what it did. And that's the SEC. But anyway, you've got Tennessee playing for, who knows, maybe a number one national seed eventually, an SEC title, and South Carolina just trying to play for its postseason life. All right, next up, the world's largest outdoor baseball cocktail party, I guess. Not really, but it's Georgia, Florida. A lot at stake for both teams, like the last series. Those things are very different. Tell me what's at stake for both teams here, Alfred.
Yeah, with Florida, I don't think a lot of people would have expected them to be in this spot this season, but they are in the same scenario right now as Ole Miss and LSU in that they can clinch a tournament berth being Hoover with a Missouri loss, and they would have to win at least one game. So Florida, if they win, they still find themselves in SEC title contention, and it gives themselves a better chance to get a better NCAA tournament seed. With Georgia, they they are now in contention for a quarterfinal bye. Arkansas, they're nipping at the heels of them. If Arkansas gets a win and Georgia loses, Arkansas gets that quarterfinal bye, but Georgia's still in contention as 2 wins for them in this series gets them at least a spot.
Yeah, and I think the bigger thing in this case is just NCAA tournament stuff. Florida is playing for its life.
Mhm.
Baseball America had a bracket today, and if I saw it correctly, Florida was not only not in it, but not among the next 8 out. Now, that may have been projecting a little bit and saying that they're not going to go to Georgia and do much, maybe predicting a sweep there for the Bulldogs, who've been just about invincible at home. But that was interesting because I think, like you said, Florida not making the tournament wouldn't have been on our radar. For Georgia, Baseball America had Georgia as a number 10 national seed this week. I question that a little
Mhm.
bit. I think that with the number 3 RPI, feels like the Bulldogs, with the way they played of late, should maybe be in a better spot. But hey, sweep Florida and a national seed might take care of itself. All right, next up, Vanderbilt travels to Lexington, Kentucky. A lot to play for. Who would have seen all the things the Cats have to play for? But they're 20-7 and leading the SEC outright by a game over the field at this point. But Vanderbilt's got some stuff to play for also. Let's give us a rundown on this one, Alfred.
Yeah, Kentucky. I did stuff for Kentucky for this one. They right now sitting atop the SEC, of course, 20-7 conference record. If they go on to win, let's say a sweep over Vanderbilt, obviously they get that advantage going for them. And we said earlier, Chris, between them and Tennessee, Tennessee does have the tiebreaker. So
Yeah.
Kentucky's very much trying to win the SEC outright, and just taking care of business this weekend. That would be their goal. So a lot on their plate as they're looking to do that. Something I did not think would happen this season.
Yeah. Yeah, and Vanderbilt just playing for an NCAA tournament bid. Vanderbilt to number 3 this week in Baseball America. I think Vanderbilt was 3 last week in D1. Kentucky, 1 win, I believe, will get the Cats and a bye, one of those 4 byes in the tournament, and then could probably do it without that. But 1 win would be 21 wins. That would certainly get them there. You've always got to be cognizant of what other people do. And Kentucky also the number 1 seed, I think, for the NCAA tournament in D1 baseball this week. So both teams a lot to play for. Vanderbilt trying to keep the nation's longest streak of NCAA tournament appearances alive. Kentucky playing for SEC titles. A bye in Hoover, which is almost clinched. And by the way, if Tennessee and Kentucky are tied, Tennessee gets the tie break by virtue of winning the series earlier in Lexington. So keep that one in mind as well. All right, next up, we've got Missouri traveling to Mississippi State. I'll just get this one out of the way from Missouri so we can focus on Mississippi State. Missouri, really nothing to play for other than pride, except if it were to sweep Mississippi State, and good luck to Missouri on trying to do that the way State is playing. And if Florida gets swept by Georgia, then Missouri could sneak a bit into Hoover. That's really all there for Missouri. So we'll get that one out of the way. Mississippi State, on the other hand, has got a lot to play for. Alfred?
Oh yeah, no, they got a ton to play for. They really can host if they take care of business, and they have a chance to do that against Missouri again. We've seen Missouri all year. They've just kind of sat at the bottom of the SEC when it comes to how they are with the other teams. And Mississippi State, it has become very competitive. They kind of sat in a lull, so to speak, not knowing how they'd be at the beginning of the year. But as time's gone on, here they are in the final weekend, taking on a team that they are very capable of sweeping. And if they do so, they really make the case to host a regional come NCAA tournament time.
Yeah, Mississippi State gets to 18-12. I can't remember the last time an SEC team had 18 wins it didn't host. So that's the task for Mississippi State is try to win the series, and you're in pretty good shape. Sweep the series. I don't know how it is that the Bulldogs wouldn't host in that scenario. Okay, next up, probably the national series of significance. We've got some great ones, but this is one that I think people are really excited about. Arkansas at Texas A&M, two different styles of ball. We got the West at stake. We got national seeds at stake. We got all kinds of stuff, Alfred. What pops for you here in this one?
Yeah, and that's what makes, Georgia kind of made this series even more interesting, because in the case or the scenario that A&M and Georgia tie for 4th in the SEC, the Aggies do get that tiebreaker because they beat Georgia. I believe that series was like last month at this point?
Yeah, it
It's
was
been
a
a
while
while.
ago.
Yeah, it's been a while at this point, but yeah, A&M obviously gets the tiebreaker because they won that series. And, with Arkansas needs at least a Georgia loss to kind of solely clinch that 3 spot that they kind of really want. So it's been interesting. It's really interesting. The thing that I like about it is that Georgia threw a wrench in it almost when it came to, not only is it just a battle for the West, but it's also, a battle for some of those quarterfinal spots.
Yeah, I think SEC titles are nice. I think everybody's more interested in the postseason in the NCAA tournament. And really, I think both teams are not going to change a lot. Now, if Arkansas were to go on the road and sweep the series, which I don't think will happen, but just playing along with that line of thinking here, Arkansas would then maybe be in contention for the number 1 national seed. I would have to think it would. A&M, I don't know if A&M would drop out of the national seed mix into the hosting, just where it's hosting, and maybe got to go on the road weekend 2. I think if this series is split, one team wins at least one game, then you're going to see both teams probably get national seeds, particularly Arkansas. But I think for the most part, it's really just painting around the edges. Where is a team in the national seed pecking order? barring some kind of disaster. Does one team host but not get a super regional? That's kind of what I'm watching there outside of the title implications. All right, next up, LSU hosts Ole Miss. What a weird set of circumstances this is for both teams. I won't steal your thunder. I'll let you have it and add some of your thoughts here. This one is really fascinating in a couple of ways.
Yeah, very much so. LSU had a hot start in non-conference play. They kind of like let the foot off the pedal, so to speak, in conference play. The record's kind of not what we thought of from a former national champion, but both Ole Miss and LSU, they would clinch a tournament berth if Missouri finds a way to lose and a win, and they were able to get a win. And they're, in that race I said, earlier with Florida for that. So it's a lot of there's a whole lot of interest, and this is a good series when these two teams
Yeah.
come together. It's a big college baseball game that people look forward to every year. So it'll be competitive as both can win into Hoover if they want to.
Yeah, and I think the bigger thing, and I think both teams are going to get to Hoover. LSU might need to, well, it's going to need to win probably one. But I think the bigger thing is NCAA tournament implications, because right now at Baseball America, I think both on the outside looking in fact, I'll give you exactly what they have. LSU is the third team out, Ole Miss the fifth team out. Now, I think if one team sweeps this series, that team's probably getting in. If it's 2-1 either way, then I don't know what they're going to do. If it's 1-1 with the rain out some way, then really who knows. But I think this is one where each team really, really needs a series win to feel good about an NCAA at large bid. And I think the team that loses a series, barring a miraculous run in Hoover, is going to be on the outside looking in at an NCAA tournament. And heck, even the winner may be, depending on what happens in Hoover. Okay, next up, Auburn, Alabama. I will steal your thunder on Auburn here. There's not a lot of thunder to steal. Auburn playing for pride. Cannot make Hoover, but what it can do is put a dent in Alabama's season and win a series where there's a lot of in-state pride at stake. Auburn playing a little better, did win a series last weekend against Missouri. But for Alabama, yeah, I mean, they're right in that pack of teams that are all separated by one or two games. So it feels like a decent range of seeding outcomes in Hoover. And maybe it'd be interesting to see what would happen if Alabama swept the series, because that RPI is number 11. And I don't know what that would do with their hosting chances, but it couldn't hurt.
No, if anything, it would help. I mean, if they were able to sweep the series, their SEC record would go from 12-15 to 15-15. And I feel like with that kind of RPI, and if you have a 500 record, at least in your conference, that helps you a ton. Whereas, being below 500 wouldn't help you as much either. So this is big. And, Alabama kind of, could use this even to host, a good run in Hoover. I think would help them do that. I don't know, the seating for Hoover for them, not as important. Obviously, I just think they're kind of in the middle of the pack. So you just got to work with whatever you get for Hoover. But for national seeding, a good run there and then a sweep even of Auburn would help them a ton.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. Looking forward to all these. We'll wrap them up at the end of the weekend. We're going to have our SEC teams. We'll announce those this weekend, Coach of the Year, all those fun things, and then we'll be bringing you coverage, I think, from Hoover next week. Just got to lock down the travel plans, but we're credentialed for that event and hoping to make it down there pending family schedules. Anyway, thank you for watching us here at Southeastern 14. I am Chris Lee. He's Alfred Ezman. We are Southeastern 14 with our baseball content presented by BetOnline.